Hello everybody. On today's episode we're going to talk about the potato, or more specifically about dishes derived from a man called Parmentier. His full name, Antoine Augustin Parmentier, was a medical doctor and he was in the army in the 1770s. It's an exciting time in Europe, the wealth of nations, economic theory, scientific theory, all these things were in full development. And unfortunately for Mr. Parmentier, he got captured during a war and he was forced to eat potatoes. Now, in France, this was considered, something you fed to animals at the time. And also, it was even thought that it caused leprosy and whatnot. However, this man was a very scientific-minded individual, and eventually he pushed for the nutritional benefits of potatoes. So much so that eventually he started giving it to the king, to poor people, and as famine came into play in Europe and France in particular, the potato played an important role in getting them out of it. So remember, foods travel, cultures travel, and a gift from the Incas, going to France, being pushed by this individual, coming back to North America for you. Let's check it out. Well, let's see what we've got. I'm gonna start digging around. Oh, I feel something there. That's a nice size one. Yeah, not a bad haul for a couple of old potatoes with eyes in them. Reuse what you got. So for today's dish, we're going to do a Hachis Parmentier, or a cottage pie or a shepherd's pie. We're going to need some potatoes, about 1 kilogram's worth, 1 carrot, fairly large, and an onion, which we're going to chop up. You're also going to probably need a clove of garlic and a tomato that's been peeled, a good sized piece of meat, left over if you want. Slice it up nice and thin, and then we saute our chopped up onions, a bit of garlic and oil, add our meat and carrots, and brown everything up. Our next step is to add a tomato that we've skinned and taken the seeds out of. Chop it up and add to the meat mixture, get the flavors out, let it break down. Followed by adding about 1.5 tablespoons, 2 tablespoons of flour. Now this is to thicken up the mixture a little bit, but just make sure you stir it to cook all that flour out. You don't want any raw flour in your mixture. The next component will be 3/4 to 1 cup of white wine. Now this helps deglaze the pan, break down the meat and vegetables, and also give a little extra flavor to our filling. Now you want enough to thicken, but not so much that it becomes stodgy. You can also add vegetable stock or chicken stock to it if you like, but remember, not too much. You don't want it too loose. Next, we're going to put all our filling into something that is oven proof and a little bit on the longer side. Something that you put a lasagna in. Anyway, put it all in there, lay it flat, and then afterwards we're going to put our potatoes on top. So to cover our Parmentier, we're going to use some mashed potatoes. So basically you boil up the potatoes that you've already skinned. We're going to add some butter to it, about 1/4 cup's worth. Now this gives it a nice flavor, allows it to get nice and creamy when you whip it up. Then what we do is we add about 1 cup of hot milk. Now make sure it's hot. You want to make sure all your potatoes are hot, all the ingredients are hot when you're working it. Then what you do, you mash it up really quickly, and then you add 1 whole egg. Just stir it in there enough to incorporate. Then once that's done, we're going to put it over the top of our Parmentier filling. The next step is to put the potatoes over the meat filling. Now it looks a bit runny at this point, and you wouldn't be wrong. However, once we bake it, all the excess liquid will evaporate. Also, the proteins in the egg will help bind all the potato together, forming a nice crust and spreading out evenly to create a good seal on the meat below. The next step in the operation is to spread out the potato mixture evenly across the entire pan. Now here I'm using an offset spatula, and I'm coming at it at a bit of an angle. See how it gets it in there into the corners? Now this is a typical technique you'll find basically with cake decorators or masons for that matter when they're putting bricks down. You come at it at a bit of an angle, as I demonstrate here, with your fingers behind, and the mixture underneath rolls out, almost like a tidal wave, into the corners. Next, we're going to grate some cheese over the top. I'm using some Gruyere here, but you can use any kind of Swiss. You can even use Parmesan if you like. It's not traditional, but it does work. Gives it a bit of caramel on the top, and it gives it an additional extra boost of flavor. So, once that's done, you pop it into a 350-degree oven for about half an hour. And then, if you really want that extra browning on the top, put it on broil for about 3-4 minutes and you'll get this result. A little bit of crispiness on the top. It's good. Now I serve it with a tomato salad, a nice chilled glass of red wine, and it's well worth having. Share, like, subscribe. Happy Parmentier, everybody.